Hey guys, and welcome back to Altruistic Channel. It's Al. So with this particular segment, what I wanted to do is, since I'm working on the foundational aspect to what the collective consciousness is and kind of what Altruistic Channels is dedicated to do, and aligning the spiritual path with the more business and worldwide type of appeal to it, I wanted to kind of address the three phases of the moon, is what I like to call it. So starting off with what is the collective consciousness. So at some point you become aware of the concept behind this, and you start to ask yourself more in-depth questions like, what exactly is it? So in that regard, the book explains it a lot better. The Moon King with No Kingdom, but does a lot better job of telling you about it. I'm going to kind of paraphrase what I wrote, and specifically more to the nuts and bolts of it. So essentially what it is that we are all spiritual beings trying to walk a spiritual path in alignment with our purpose, right? And it's in divine guidance that we find ourselves on a path of discovery. And so during that process, you learn that you are part of one. Like, we are all one with humanity. It's like one source of all energy that is all knowing in all things at once. And so in that concept, you become aware of the collective consciousness, which is what you tap into, that gives everyone in the group the ability to communicate with each other essentially and know what's going on, kind of like a queen bee type of mentality to it, and then act as one, as a society or as a community, to move forward in accomplishing whatever the goal is that was set by the divine guidance, right? So in place of it being a religion, it's about spirituality. It's about finding your sense of self and kind of taking that empowering step to own your shit and to be the creator of your destiny, because you are the manifester. And so that's the first phase. The second phase is when you are, that's the process in which I was just talking about, is the awakening. So now we've gone through awareness of the collective consciousness and what that is, and then immediately went into the awakening process, where you're awakened to a new reality that comes from knowing that you can tap into this particular sense of camaraderie and power from the divine, because the divine's best wishes for you is to find your voice and to step into your light, and then beam that light into the world and change the frequency of man. So when I refer to the frequency of man, what I'm referring to is that we all, I consider it a soul signature. All humanity, every human has like a level of vibrational pull to them that they create with who they are. Lower vibrational people are people who are not awakened yet. These are people who are still living in almost ignorant bliss, but that are taking no responsibility, are always constantly the victim of scenarios, and never taking responsibility for their own actions or their part in life, right? The higher frequency beings are people who are working the path or have begun the ascension process, which is the third phase. So when you are awakening, you're starting to work all of this through, you're now dealing with the darker side of yourself during the awakening, right? So you're working your path and you're doing your mojo to kind of align yourself with your negative traits and what it is that you're going, that you need to adjust. That's when we enter into the third phase, which is the ascension. So ascension is basically going up the mountain to the divine guidance, to the divine light, meeting God at the top of the hill, of the mountain actually. But in order to get there, you have to literally purify yourself all the way through, all to the top. Now, purification is a debatable topic, because a lot of people believe purification to be white light and nothing negative. I'm a firm believer in the opposite. You still have to hold on to a balancing agent and walk a neutral path. That's how you get to the top. Otherwise, you're not going to get there. But essentially what you're trying to do is you're trying to ascend past the illusions of of reality, of what you perceived at the beginning to be real and true, falls by the wayside, and you ascend the clouds and you rise above to a clear picture perfect clarity, where you can see everything for what it is, and you take ownership for all things at once, and take your role as a leader within the construct of your power, and you shine that power outwards. And it's something you don't necessarily have to talk about anymore. It's just something that you are. And so that's the gift that we get for ascending. Then beyond that, there is the belief that you go on to different incarnations or different aspects to ascension, that you rise even higher and higher. But then you start to get into masters scenarios and things that go beyond the fifth dimension. It starts to go to sixth dimension, seventh and eighth. So these are all layers to the soul's evolution. But for the purpose of this particular introductory snippet, I guess I'm just going to leave it at that. If you guys have any questions, because it can be a little confusing at times, so I think I did a pretty good job explaining it here. If you have any questions, always seek me out. My email's attached to this website. It's very easy to find me here or at Altruistic Channel Aravalo for my personal YouTube page or directly on Facebook, or you can also find me on any one of the social media outlets that we have posted at the same page as the About Us. And that way I can get back to you as soon as I can. Also, if you find that you need a mentor or someone to guide you, I firmly recommend, or I vehemently recommend, that you do so if you're inclined to do so. God doesn't prompt you to do things unless you're ready, so that would be an indication that you're ready to walk your path. Just commit to yourself and know that there is no attachment to a religion. You're not losing anything. Only thing you're gaining is empowering yourself to walk in and around the divine guidance that is all-knowing. And that's basically what you're working for. It's more of an enlightened state without being hippy-dippy. It's just about being rewarding and fighting with humanity for humanity and also for the planet, because that is the goals here that I have, at least. And then as we go on, I'll talk a little bit more about how Altruistic Channels focuses the spiritual path with the business. Okay, that's it for me at Al at Altruistic Channels. Later.